morning. I'm Tyler. Welcome to another episode of Super Secret Recipe. And well, let me tell you, trying to find a full vegan meal to cook for breakfast that isn't just oatmeal is a challenge. But I did. So let me introduce you to my ugly baked potato that I'll be using to make part one of my 3-part meal, hash browns. A quick tip to make your life easier when making hash browns is to use a potato that's already been cooked through. So I actually baked this the night before and fridged it. First, we're going to peel and cut about 430 grams or 3 cups of potato into chunky cubes. Next, to a well-oiled pan, we'll add half a green bell pepper, half a red bell pepper, and half of a yellow onion, all diced. Let that cook enough for the vegetables to slightly begin to soften, and then add about 4 cloves of minced garlic. And just before our garlic begins to brown, we're going to add our cubed potatoes to the pan. Now stir your potatoes and let them get acquainted with the vegetables. Now let's talk seasoning for our hash browns. Now I don't tend to measure my salt and pepper for hash browns. Just try and get salt and pepper to touch all the potatoes in the pan and taste for seasoning as you go. Now the remaining seasoning is up to you. I'm going to add a teaspoon of paprika and a teaspoon of chili powder, but feel free to play around with different spices. Cajun seasoning is a really good one you might want to try. When you've cooked your hash browns to your desired level of crispiness, remove them from the heat and place them in an oven on warm or in your lowest heat setting until you're ready to serve. And now let's move on to mushrooms on toast, which has quickly become one of my top 5 breakfast meals. First off, let's toast our bread in olive oil. I chose ciabatta, but any dairy-free bread will suffice. Once your bread is all nice and toasty, set it to the side and let's move on to our mushrooms.
We're going to take 2 cups of shiitake mushrooms and cut them into slices like so. Then set them to the side, oil up a pan, and add 1 chopped shallot.
We'll cook our shallots until they become translucent, then we'll add some mushrooms to the pan.
Cook the mushrooms until they brown just a bit, and then add half a cup of Marsala cooking wine. For some really great flavor, we're going to add in a tablespoon of fresh thyme, then a light sprinkle of salt. Optionally, you can finish this off by adding 1 tablespoon of vegan sour cream, which you can find at any place where you can find vegan alternatives. Think Whole Foods or Sprouts.
Mix it all together and you'll have a delicious topping for your toast, which we'll set to the side. And finally, the fastest and easiest part of our meal, pan-fried cherry tomatoes. We'll heat some olive oil in a pan on high and then drop in our desired amount of cherry tomatoes. Hit them with some salt, black pepper, and dried basil. Toss and mix the tomatoes in the seasoning until they're properly blistered on the bottom, then remove them from the heat. Now we're ready. I'm going to place my toast on a plate and then spoon a generous amount of my mushrooms over top. Then, to add color and flavor, I'll sprinkle a bit of chopped parsley over top. Next on the plate is a serving of hash browns. And finally, we'll round things out with my cherry tomatoes. And breakfast is served. No meat, no animal byproducts, just the blessings of the earth. Let's dig in. The hash browns, very satisfying. I love paprika on potatoes. Our tomatoes are really good too, really sweet and savory at the same time. And finally, the star of the show, mushrooms on toast. It is such a good combo. 10 out of 10. Highly recommend. Now if you'll excuse me, it's time for breakfast.